I tried college. The teacher came, talked to me after class, and he says, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to get dates." And he was like, "How you doing?" And I said, "Not good." And he said, "But I hear you fix cars." "Yeah, I love that." He said, "Go do that." I dropped out of college. I love fixing things. It's very satisfying.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Guiding You Forward podcast. We are here with Dave and Miles here at Dave's Auto Center in Centerville. And we are just shooting a My Style commercial with you guys, but thought we'd take some time out to talk to you guys about your business, what you guys do here. There's so many things to discuss. You guys are blowing up on social media. We're going to get into all of that. But I just kind of wanted to start with you, Dave, and kind of go back to like the beginning. I was an automotive journalist myself, and I love asking this question, but like, what got you into cars in the first place? Like, what was the impetus for like all of this now?
Poverty.
Okay.
When I was 14 or 15, I knew I wanted a car.
Okay.
And we were living in Florida in the Keys. I grew up in Key Largo, in that area. And we didn't have a lot of money, so it was like if I was going to have a car, I was going to have to figure out how to put one together and make it work. And working on boats and just with my dad and doing things growing up, I liked working on things. And then when I got my first car, and that's a story in itself. It was a Volkswagen Bug, and I did a little 1600 cc engine. Well, I won't.
It's like a Footloose situation.
I won't touch an air cool now. You bring it in. I won't touch them. But
it's a big policy in our shop.
Yeah, but that's how it kind of got started. It was just. And I loved it. I love fixing things. And
Did you just start teaching yourself that kind of stuff, or were there mentors kind of along the way that took you under their wing and taught you that stuff, or
my
programs?
My first paying job was a Friendly Checker cab company in Miami, Florida. When we moved up, being in the military, my dad, we moved around a lot in South Florida. This was back in the 70s, and I kept walking by this cab and limousine company. And back then, cars, you just worked outside kind of under carports.
Right.
And in South Florida.
Especially in Florida.
Yeah. And I saw what was going on, and I was just fascinated. And I kept bugging the guy, give me a job. And he was like, "Get out of here, kid." And I finally said, "Let me work for free. And give me a week or two." And I said, "If you don't like me and what I can help you with, I'm out of here. I won't bother you." And after 2 or 3 days, I think he started me at like $1.35 an hour or something like that. I mean, this is back in the mid 70s.
Yeah.
So, and that's my first paying job was when I was 15 as a mechanic.
Very cool.
Yeah, I didn't do much. I cleaned out taxi cabs and limousines and started doing oil changes and brake jobs. And it's basically what you still have to do, start at the bottom and learn.
Nice. And did that inspire a passion for you? Like, was it just at first just like, well, this is great, I need the car? Can you think of a time where like that kind of just like kickstarted your passion? Like, I'm just really into cars. I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Pretty much then. I was good at it. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. I've done nothing except that. I tried college for a while. In between, when I left Florida and came out west, 1978, 79, I moved out to Idaho, which was a culture shock.
Yeah, I bet.
and so I went to college a little bit. And, it's an interesting thing. I was in school. I was in a zoology class at BYU, Idaho. Back then they called it Ricks.
Right.
And the teacher came, talked to me after class, and he says, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to get dates." And he was like, "How you doing?" And I said, "Not good. I mean, the girls weren't that interested in me." And he said, "But I hear you fix cars."
Oh, nice.
And he said, "I hear you're good at that." And I said, "Yeah, I love that." He said, "Go do that." I dropped out of college and moved down to Salt Lake and started working at a dealership, and that was the end of it.
Oh, nice. And that's how you started going about getting your certificates. And
that's it.
I believe you're ASE Master Certified?
Yeah, in automotive, heavy truck, also machinist.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, I've been doing this for 50 years now.
Right.
So it'd be hard not to pick up a few certifications.
Right. Yeah, the process.
But yeah, and that's, for me, that was it. I love fixing things. It's very satisfying.
Nice.
Yeah.
What inspired the move out west, like to pick up from Florida and move it all out here?
Well, in the middle of 1970, being in South Florida, there was a lot of opportunity for the wrong kind of thing doing
Right.
down there, and I thought I'm not going to do that, and I left South Florida.
Okay.
And I know this is on a podcast, but that was there was a lot of that kind of opportunity for brave young men back then.
Right.
And thank goodness I didn't take that route.
Yeah. Thank goodness you liked putting things together.
Yeah. I got a family, and it's been a great life. I mean, you're actually sitting here interviewing one of the most blessed cats in the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I guess when did you meet your wife and this become like a whole family thing? Or I mean, even
That's my favorite story.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Miles, me and Allie, we've been together. This will be our 40th year.
wow, congratulations.
Yeah. Seems like just went by so fast. But I was working at a place called Men Love Dodge Toyota here in Bountiful, Utah. And Bill Johnson was the principal, and God rest his soul, he's not around anymore. But I went to work for him, and I was working in that dealership, and they came to me one time and said, and then during this time, me and Al, we're living together. We lived together for almost 5 years. Miles had been born. And
Is Miles your oldest?
Miles is my oldest,
Okay.
with Allie, and he had just been born. And I finally convinced her to marry me. And so we drove up to Jack. So he was about, he was born in August the 7th. So he was 2.5 months old. And I finally said, because she kept telling me, "You're crazy, I'm not marrying." I was like, "Well, we got a baby now. Maybe we ought to think about it."
Yeah.
And so we drove up to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, because that's where we like to, we
gorgeous.
would go up there. But this is this is back in 1990. And it was a lot smaller than it is now.
Oh yeah.
And we got the justice of the peace, the bartender, and a waitress were the witnesses.
That was your bridal party.
And we got married.
That's
and
awesome.
on a 3-day weekend. And then we came back, and I went into work. So the backstory to that was the place I was working at. They were trying to get me to like pool all my resources with 5 other mechanics. And let me explain something. Mechanics are paid. Most of them are paid on a flat rate.
Right,
Piece work. And I'd always mentored guys because by this time I was 30 years old. Mm-hmm. That's right, 30 years old. And they wanted me to pool my labor with 5 other guys, and then we were going to split it 6 different ways. And I just was like, I will help another man. I'll stay late. I'll do whatever. But I'm not going to take my resources and combine them with his, and we're going to split it down the middle.
Right. Like, where's the motivation for everybody to work hard in that situation?
So when I came back to that after getting married, they had thought while I was gone that they were going to let me go. So I got fired.
Oh wow.
So the day I got back to work, I had no uniforms in my locker. I said to the manager, I said, "Hey man, where's my uniforms?" "Dave, come into my office." Short story, because I know it's too long.
Not what you like to hear.
He said, "Dave, we're going to let you go." I was like, "You guys lost your mind, man. I'm making more money for you guys than any mechanic in this place." "Well, we really want to do this thing we got planned." I went to other dealerships. I come home to Allie. She was so supportive. Now this woman didn't want to marry me. Living together 5 years, got a brand new baby, but she never complained. She just was like stuck by me. And eventually, what happened was I thought I got to do my own thing. So I found a little unheated storage unit, and this was in October of 1990, going into winter. And one of the first things I afforded was a propane bottle and a heater, and I started working out of a storage unit down off of Redwood Road and 6 South in Salt Lake City.
Wow.
And and that was back
And what was your sign? How did you put up your sign?
I got a 4x8 sheet of plywood and a can of Krylon paint, and I painted my name on a sign.
That's awesome.
And when we told everybody back then, there was no internet or anything like that.
Just built by reputation.
We started telling people, "Dave will fix your car." And
yeah.
I don't know what my hourly rate was. I can't really remember, but I was cheap, man.
Yeah.
And then it just took off from there. But yeah, that's an amazing thing. I tell people, if you want to be successful in America, you just put your head down, don't give up, and keep going, man. Because that's all I did. Because I am not, and you'll find that out talking to me, I'm not the smartest guy in the room.
It seems like you're pretty smart to me. There's all sorts of intelligences, right?
He is pretty smart and very determined.
Yeah.
It's determination for me. Yeah.
So Miles, bringing you into this, and sorry for making you sit here, but I'm sure you love hearing this.
I do.
But what did this all look like from your perspective, like growing up, right? Like as Dave is building this business and it's starting to scale, and I assume you guys moved here to Centerville at some point. What did that look like from your perspective?
So I remember when we built this building here.
Okay.
And then we lived in the house right behind it.
Oh, all right.
So for me, I remember interacting quite a bit with my dad growing up because we lived really,
right there.
As soon as I could remember, we lived within 50 yards of the shop. So me and my brothers grew up skateboarding, learning to ride bikes in the parking lot of the shop. So it wasn't, there's a lot of memories that we had with that. And I remember my dad, almost every Saturday, and I think to this day, even almost every Saturday, I shouldn't have looked at you. I'm sorry. Every Saturday he's here working, doing accounting and billing and just kind of catching up. I blame you for that one. But there's and from when we would have vacations with school or something like a Christmas vacation, we would push all of the equipment, tables and stuff out of the building, and we would clean the shop. And so it was,
and that's a mopping floors.
Right.
Yeah.
Like sparkling.
When it comes to mopping floors and sweeping, I am great.
Started early.
Yeah, we started early, but it, and there was times growing up where I kind of resented, like, oh my gosh, we're just working and doing this. But there was also a lot of value to that because that's, I knew that it was helping the family business. My dad was a hard worker, and sometimes it was like, I wish I could be out and having a vacation and not cleaning the shop or doing something like that. But in hindsight, I'm so grateful for that. And I'm like, my kids are going to do that because that work ethic and that like dedication really paid off in the future. And so, but yeah, I just remember the shop has been a home for us.
Nice.
Yeah, I built a home right behind the shop.
What year was this that you guys built here?
We built the building, the first building here in 1990. I bought it in 92, so we went up in 93. So it took me, I rented like 3 or 4 different spots, kind of growing.
Jumping around.
I went from the storage unit unheated to a heated storage unit.
Right.
I thought, man, I'm in the
scaling
money.
slowly.
Made it.
I'm in the money now. I can afford actually
It's warm
a heater.
in here. Yeah.
And then went to a bigger building, a unit. And then I was on a test drive one day in this old farmhouse right here. And I mean, there was nothing out here in Centerville. There was nothing on this frontage road. And
this was dirt and weeds and
and
farmland.
There was nothing in a little old farmhouse and a for sale sign. And I knocked on the door, and a sweet old lady answered the door, and she was selling the place, a little farmhouse. And I said, I want to buy this ground, a couple acres. And we struck a deal, and then I got the city. That's another story, changing from agricultural to commercial. City didn't want me to do that, but I kept going, and that was my first experience on dealing with politics in a small city.
Right.
And so that's all. It's all learning. You just. I have a saying that opposition is an opportunity with options to overcome. Those are my 4 O's, and then the secret, the 5th O is to obliterate the competition. So I've kind of lived my life that way, and that's all. And as I look back on everything that I've ever done, there's always obstacles.
Right.
But man, you got to do that brain flip. You got to say, there's got to be an opportunity in here, and all you got to do is just bring a ton of options to it.
Yeah, that silver lining.
And I mean, other people figure it out a different way, but for me, I have those little sayings.
Nice. Very cool. And so, Miles, your title here is you're the president here. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm kind of the do whatever is needed guy.
Yeah.
So I still clean the bathrooms and I still mop floors.
Still doing
and
everything.
I did turn a wrench
You
for a
don't
while.
clean the bathrooms that much, but I
Not
know
that much. But occasionally. So I knew my dad taught us early on how to machine cylinder heads and help out in the machine shop from a pretty young age.
That's so cool. I'm very jealous of that.
It was way fun.
Yeah.
I ruined a lot of cylinder heads in the process. But then, so I tell people, I'm like, I knew how to do that before I knew how to change oil on a car. And
That's
then,
wild.
And then I ended up, my dad told me when I was about, I think 16, I think is when I got my first job, and I worked at Quiznos Subs. I remember that. But he told me, he's like, go out and...
Your dad ran the shop, and your first job was at Quiznos.
Well, he told me, he's like, if you want to work at the shop,
yeah,
I would love to have you.
But
I don't want you to be here just because you feel this obligation to me or the family or something like that. He's like, you need to make sure that this is your choice, not just like my choice for you.
Right. Yeah, I tell you right now, this is for any father that wants his sons to work in his business or daughters. The one thing I never wanted to hear was, I did this for you, Dad.
Right.
I never, no father wants his children to do something for him. I want him to have his own life. So that's why I was like, go work for somebody else.
Try some other things out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did fast food. I did a few different things. And then I ended up coming back here and working full time. I think I started when I was 21. And for about a year, I turned wrenches and stuff like that. And I loved it. But my passion became really like growing the business, I was a service advisor for many years for the shop here and doing more of the office stuff. That's where I found a lot of my passion. And
he's too humble. He come home from his mission. He served a mission in the Philippines for 2 years.
Okay.
And he comes home from his mission and he starts at Weber State and he gets his associate degree in automotive technology.
I went to that program.
Yeah, it's a great program. Yeah. So I did that. So I'd work here in the day. We had a store up in Layton at the time. So I'd work at Layton, go to their night classes in their automotive program. And then he ended up running the store in Layton for me for a while. We since have sold it to Consolidate because what we do, I didn't need 2 locations. We, being mostly an engine install shop,
right,
and a high performance shop and things like that, people will bring their stuff to me. We're not known for brake jobs.
Right.
I mean, we can do brake jobs, but that's not what we're known for.
Do more complex work than that.
Yeah. But he ran that place at, in his 20s and did a great job. I couldn't be luckier.
Yeah.
All my boys are just fantastic.
That was going to be kind of a follow-up question for me, is like, because I can look at that. I was an automotive journalist for a while, but I can see like sometimes that can destroy your passion for something, having to do it day in and day out.
Right.
And so it's interesting to hear your story of, I love being like, oh, try some other things out. This maybe is not what you're most passionate about. But did other members of the family, like, do they work around here? Did they want to play a role in this? Or was it Miles mostly that was like, that you really had that passion and maybe some of them were like, yeah, I'm going to go do some other things?
We've had different family members and friends and stuff come through here. I think
we've had Joey, my oldest son, worked here for years, and he's gone on to other things, and he does great. He's mechanically, he's a lot like me. I love what this country has done for me and my family.
Yeah,
it's a wonderful life.
Well, very cool. Well, I just wanted to thank you guys for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you.
We'll wrap up here, and we'll see you on the next episode of Guiding You Forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.